Right, from the Ottawa Valley, good day. So this talk is more on the decision-making process to doing KAP up in the Arctic. Geez, I'm going to have a problem reading my notes. I'm sorry? Yeah, it didn't work.
Oh, it needs to be plugged in underneath.
Can somebody come in and plug in for me? Yeah. So before I get into the Arctic KAP, I'm sure most of you have read the article up in Aerial Eye, and well, if you haven't, I think everybody should have read the Aerial Eye from cover to cover. I think it's a great resources of information, and it should be by your bedside as well, so you could read it every night. Yeah. Okay, that's. Yeah, just open a window here. Yeah, great, thanks. Right. All right, I'm not as good as the other guys that do just to wing it like that. Now, first I have to acquaint you with the pre-field trip research that went into it. So I will give you a brief introduction to the type of work that I do. The Canadian Conservation Institute is recognized in the leading edge research and innovation approaches in a pioneer conservation of cultured heritage. So we do work with some museum across the country and sometimes collaborations, other institutions around the world. My colleagues, next slide please. My colleague and myself are scientific documentation technologists, so we do science photography. We photograph, document, and record all cultural properties that comes in for treatment and or analysis. Next slide. From fragile textiles, which was the previous one, sorry, you'll notice an access door. Can you go back to the previous one? You'll notice an access door on the black area there. There's an access door to the second floor, so we hang a 4x5 up there. And then we shoot down on the floor on fragile. This one was actually a very fragile textile made out of silk, and it comes in on sandwich boards. And paintings of all sizes, and as in the science of forensic photography, specializing in technique as in ultraviolet fluorescence. Where next slide. In this case, where a signature can be revealed on the next slide, please. This is normal photography, and this is UV. So somebody actually went in and did a signature on top of the varnish, and fluorescence will distinguish what has been added on top. Additions could be added on top. Next slide. Archaeological 14th century burials. This one is from Red Bay, Labrador, in the northern part of Quebec. Next slide. Ultraviolet photography of mineral pieces, in this case. Requirements to innovate in any given situation. Radiography of painting. This is a very, very large painting, and we have a full lab. Next one. And the requirement to innovate in any given situation. In this case was a cannon, I think it was a 15th century French cannon in the St. Lawrence River that was found, and there were some chemical changes inside wall of the bore of the cannon. We need to go in and do a shot very, very quickly, and of course, well, the simplest way is to shoot it with a mirror at 45, shoot the inside of the wall, and then you can see all the colors. Next slide. And then also the planning for any circumstances. This is a research project for one of our engineers working in transportation of museum art, and very fragile art. Next slide, please. And also the knowledge to analyze of how to photograph. This one is the off-gassing of a painting on glass. So a lot of paintings have a glass up front. And then there was actually some transfer material, the off-gassing directly from the painting onto the glass, reproducing another image by itself, which is pretty much, you could see the form of the painting, which is, in this case, was a portrait of a woman. But also, next slide, but also the beauty of the work itself. This is a shadow of a conservator through an Indonesian shadow puppet. So of course we do some work for some of our publications. Next slide. And our work takes us to great heights. This one, and Simon says, "What the hell are you doing up here?" Well, I don't know, but I'm just about ready to have a new pair of underwear here. This is on the top of the Parliamentary Library. We're on top of a 100-ton crane. You know, it's still pretty scary. I'd rather keep my 2 feet on the ground, but word prevails that we can use Kite on this project, and we had to be there right on the spot, and we had to go out and touch it and actually take some samples. So this is a very expensive process for aerial photography. So this is another way to do it. But if you have the budget for it, it's great. Next slide. It also takes us to the Great White North. Some of our travels takes us to the north of 60, working with other government agencies, provincial and municipal, and also electrical institution, power stations. Next one. To document Aboriginal rock paintings before they disappear on disappearing by natural erosion or man-made erosion. There are a lot of graffiti writing either in the summertime or wintertime. Snowmobilers and canoers, boaters come in, and we do a lot of this work in the wintertime because it takes us onto a very hard, flat surface as opposed to doing photography right off of a boat. We do it in the wintertime. We use indoor studio lighting system, cross-polarization, medium format cameras, generators. So we carry quite a bit of equipment with us when we go out. Next slide, please. And in post-processing, this is, we're also taking GPS as some of the locations of the sites as well, so they can easily be found by people who want to vandalize them. Okay, next slide, please. And in post-processing, we do a lot of post-processing, mainly scanning or transparencies, X-rays, and whatnot. Next slide. And in this case, we're scanning 9 radiographs. They're 14-inch by 17-inch plates, and each of them are scanned. And next slide. And then mosaic together with some special software that we just recently acquired, and then it just takes care of the distortion by positioning same point relations, some physical points that we've seen on the surface of the painting. And of course, X-rays is three-dimensional. We see the depth of it, wood grains, see the other side of the frame, the wooden frame. And so when you're selecting physical points, you have to make sure that it's on the surface and not the underside of the wood frame. Next slide. And also in our rock art paintings, these can be dated up to 1,000 years. We also do rock art pigments. Colors can be extracted to reveal better indication of their forms. So this is all through Photoshop. Some work that I've designed to work on in.
How do they know the dates on those?
I'm sorry?
How do they know the dates on those? Is it possible to date?
It is. No, there's no physical way to date them. It's just an approximation that they could be up to 1,000 years old. Yeah. To native trails, mostly from archaeological sites from the neighborhood, so they can start. I'm sorry?
From historical context.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now. I'm sorry?
Can't you use some carbon dating or something on the color?
No, most of the paintings, the pigments are iron oxide, and so there's no way to do carbon dating on them, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Which leads me to their Arctic research. As any other type of research, we're not biased as to what techniques that we use to any given situation, as you might have seen. So before I make a presentation, before we know that we're going to go out to do a field trip, and I wanted to just supplement some of the other work that I've done, and I have done some KAP, and I wanted to see if there was anything else out there that we can bring out there. Next slide. Now, let me just go back for a second. And many trips into the Arctic, but in this case, and as any other governments, a severe budget cutbacks. So, as any institution, belt tightening can make or break a project. So aerial survey photography was out of the question at this time. We had done some in the past. Because they were more expensive than the allocated 10,000 Canadian dollars for a full budget for a full coverage, which is in the neighborhood of about 15 grand. But also not required at this time because we're working at smaller localized areas. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, go back. Okay, we looked at some bipod systems that was used by Park Canada Services, and they're used on their archaeological sites for much smaller. It's a very, very disruptive system. Some of the advantages, well, I couldn't find any. And the advantages was that it has a very limited coverage. We might be talking about 5 to 6 meters square. Setup intensive, you need quite a few people to set up the bipod system, and it's very site disruptive. This is okay, it's in a rocky area, but we're working in a very sandy, clayish material, and you're leaving marks all over the place. You got to carry the stuff up there, it's got to be on the ground and then put together. Next, I'm sorry?
How high?
I think these were about 40 feet, I think, and they can hang a large format cameras from a cable. Next slide. Blimps have also been used successfully in the past. These people have been doing a lot of photography in the Jordan areas. I think one of them, they've since passed away, and I think there are other people that have since taken their places doing this kind of stuff. But up in the Arctic, we have the problem of transportation of pressured bottle of gas, helium, in this case, is almost prohibitive and in our situation, and it has to be planned ahead of time. You just can't bring pressure bottled gas into commercial aircraft. It has to be shipped, especially out there, so it's very, very costly. Next slide. Then came to use my knowledge of KAP and to try to put this to good use for us. And my manager is, I have a very, very good manager who's allowed me to do quite a bit of experimentation. And this is one of the first cameras I've used on my rig. I use the same rig, but keep changing cameras on it. Now the cost was basically none, which they liked a lot. And I use my own personal equipment, and I've also built a stereo rig. And like I said, it's a really tight budget, so we had to use the material that we had at our disposal, and and in this case we had boxes and boxes of balsa wood in our furniture lab, so we got to use that, play with that. It didn't cost anything, just my time. It means I'm worth nothing. Okay, next slide. And it was only a couple of years after I met with others in the interest of low-level aerial photography. There is the balsa rig, okay? And of course, there's very little experimentation beforehand, before leaving on our field trip, and I found the thing was all wobbling all over together. And of course, the nearest Kite stores is about 5 days away by aircraft, and I had a bunch of stuff, duct tape and wind socks, and I took the tree line wire to the central parts and used my PKV system of the time, and put a drogue at the back of it, and then it stabilized it like crazy. It was just great. So a lot of duct tape. I'm sorry? How much does it weigh? A kilo. Yeah. Balsa was very, very, there's a lot of surface as for wind. So the whole thing just kind of skewed back, but the drogue kind of kept it back, but kept it level as well.
So it's about a meter wide, would you say?
Yeah, it was $1.2 and $1.3, 45 inches. And it was built specifically to fit into one of our crates that was shipped out there with all of our equipment. We didn't make it to be extendable. I had some experience of building model aircrafts and knew how to build ailerons, controllers that use the same kind of controllers to trigger the 2 shutters at the same time. And then by fine-tuning them on each of the camera, got them within 5 to 10 milliseconds apart. Okay, next one. And one of the case at this low-level aerial photography conference in Minnesota, I got to meet with Irene Marosov and Germany. She was using at that time propane gas blimp, which was available. Propane gas for us was available because we cook with it every day. And but again, at that time, the blimp was in the neighborhood of 12,000 US. So it made it a little bit out of hand for us. Advantage is propane was available. But the cost was just out of there, and she did some fantastic work. Now they're the manufacturing of vinyl blimps all over the place, used for advertising, and a lot of the companies, there's a company in Southern Ontario who also makes their own aerial rig to hang on the blimps, and they basically look like KAP rigs. So it's very, very similar. Okay, next one. Now, remote control, I met these people. Remote control aircraft by Jim Walker and his wife from Brigham Young University. Like I said, as a teenager, I used to build model aircraft, and I've also considered one of these to be used up in the Arctic, but the cost and transportation of the fuel, special fuel for the model aircraft was, again, a little bit prohibitive, even if you didn't need more than maybe a quart or two. And also the cost and the relearning of how to fly a model aircraft. But after meeting with them and talking with them, his modified extended high dihedral wing design made them slow and very easy to fly. So these things didn't have an aileron, so they had such a high dihedral. So when they put when they turn the rudder, right? Okay, and the plane just banked by itself. You turn the rudder back in again. The plane just righted itself and just flew in a straight line. So it made the thing. Next slide. And also the addition of the ability to use an electric motor, which I never thought was possible 30 years ago when I was doing this. But these guys are using it, and it cuts down the vibration, and they can run for about 15 minutes on a charge. And you do a whole roll of film, shoot on a straight line, come back, take it down, change your battery pack, put another roll of film in, send it back up again. And these things are just basically thrown handheld to be launched. And for landing, well, you can either catch it or let it land on some of the soft sand that we had out there. So it could be a good possibility for us to use this kind of systems. We just need a bigger crate to put the stuff in, which could be another problem. Okay, but after meeting with them, the most expensive low aerial photography, next slide please, is the use of helicopters with any type of attachments. This one I've seen again at that conference. They're using motorized Hasselblads on a boom underneath it, and boy, they had a really nice rig. But you can get full site coverage. Disadvantage at the helicopter cost in the Arctic was $1,000 an hour, and that you had to pay an hour for your transportation to get there to your site, the time to hook it up and then do your flying. So it was very, very expensive. The equipment is very, very expensive. We never used motors on our Hasselblads. And, but if you're flying really low, then you get prop wash. Remember I said it was a very dusty area. It's silt, and we're working with wood materials. And so you get a lot of dust and clouds all over the place. So this was definitely out of the questions. All right, next slide. Now our trip consists of going up to, traveling 6 hours from Ottawa to Resolute Bay in the area now called Nunavut Territory. The Northwest Territory was split in two and created as Nunavut Territory. The Arctic's ruggedness, next slide please, is revealed even before landing. Evidence of a Lancaster bomber slowly deteriorates 1 kilometer away from the runway. Oh, this is Resolute Bay. Oh, way ahead. So it has nice scenic areas right in the bay. This is in July. Okay. Something to look forward to, Eric. Yeah. All right, next one. And of course, there's the Lancaster bomber at the end of the runway. So it's been there for years. They're just going to let it. They took whatever was good out of it, the engines and controls, and then just left it there.
Is this the runway in the foreground?
Yeah, that's the runway. That's rough. Okay, the next slide. Small community off the Barrow Strait portrays its citizens. There's downtown Resolute Bay. Okay, next slide. Portrays its citizen with a strong will and determination. So it's great to seeing the kids all playing outside in about 0 degrees. 0 degrees C, they just wear t-shirts out there. Next one. Okay, our trip is 2.5 hours north, or as 1 metric ton of equipment and supplies. Food is loaded into a Twin Otter. Next slide. And this is what it looks like inside of a Twin Otter. Also, people change when you go out to an extended field trip. And next slide. And sometimes they don't come back the same way as they left. Am I scaring you, Eric?
Completely.
Okay. Okay. Okay, next slide. Supplies are dropped off at the baggage terminal. Next slide. And is also sometimes brought in by helicopter. Somebody's got to do that job. Boy, I hated it. From nearby landing site if the conditions are not favorable. Sometimes the landing strips is very, very soggy. And at one time they've actually had to dig out the wheels of a Twin Otter, which are big tires, and they just sank into the ground. So the pilot was not very happy. Okay, next slide. Right, the location is on the 80th parallel. The site is 1.5 kilometers by 0.5 kilometer. This is the central area that we're actually working in. And the other area is a hill much larger. But this area has, you can see the leaf mat litter in layers. And these are some of the larger ones. And within all this, from the floor right up, there's over 26 layers of vegetation. So there's quite the history on it. Dating as much as or as less as 45 million euros. What's a couple of million at that time? Tree stumps, logs, leaf mat litter, and many layers, only now exposed to the elements and gradually erodes. Next. Imagery used for mapping artifact location. This is one of the stumps that we had to document. Next one. Okay, some of the mappings, the aerials are done, aerial photo surveys are done in '89, and they're continuously being used for various sources. And all the dots are actually stumps, logs, and that were exposed to the surface and gradually eroding. Next one. Recording various stages of decomposition. Just get that in focus a bit. Good. So this is actually the same stump. There's a catalog number on each of these things, and then at 3 of my trips, I've been to document these all the time. Next one. Visual comparison to support data from erosion studies. So from the aerial maps, from the aerial photos, we can combine them with the current KAP photos. In this case, using them as a pair for stereo viewing, and in this case, to compare the detailed shot of this area with the one done with the KAP. So you've got a 10 by 10 piece of film, and then you go in and you crop it, and then you get the same areas that you get from the Kite aerial photography. And the resolution between one and the other, I'm using at that time, we didn't have a lot of money. Like I said, we had to buy Kodak Cameo cameras. And with those plastic optics, we still had a little bit better resolution than what was that cropped from a 10 by 10 aerial. Next one. And also preservation for research for a museum display. So this is pieces that were brought into the labs stabilized so that it doesn't continue decomposing, and documented and then sent to the Museum of Natural Sciences, Museum of Nature in Ottawa. Next one. And welcome to Camp Rainbow. Next one. Our electrical system is installed. Next one. Water filtration system is also put together. Number 10 buck and a 12 gauge shotgun, J-clot, and some sand gives you a good filtration system for your water. Next one. Also, as well as the CO2 generating system is dispensing 1 liter of beer per day for 3 guys. So figure that one out for yourself. And the first one who tells me what 2 dry chemicals are used to make CO2 gets a free beer. I'll buy him a beer tonight. Okay, now next. From base camp, all equipment is carried up daily on a 15 to 20 minute hike. No vehicles to carry the stuff. So we prepare a plan for daily work every day. And this day was nice and windy, and then we're going to go up. Next slide. And the wind just dies down on you. Weather pattern changes quite considerably over the day. Could change 5 to 6 days. And when the wind dies, it's really bad news. Next slide. And of course, the mosquitoes come out. And I hear they're a lot bigger in Antarctica. Okay, next slide. And occasionally our neighbors drop in for satisfy their curiosity. Next slide. These are great. These are big rabbits, I tell you, man. I don't know what they're eating. That's right. Yes, yes. All right. On the extreme side of things, next slide. Oh yes, this Arctic wolf. Nice guy came in, looked at the food buckets buried into the permafrost to keep them cool, and of course he comes in and pees on them. It wasn't our camp, so it's great. Okay, next slide. The extreme side of things is that, oh yes, this is just get out of my face, and this open space out there, there's a lot of room, but don't walk on their territory. All right, next one. Windstorms, the first-hand experience at soil erosion. Boy, when it winds out there at camera bag on the side, about 7 to 10 kilos, and then just hanging over the hill and just doing like this, you're flying. Next one, and also the great of birth of the Rolling Stone. Not as old as Keith Richards, but getting there. Next one. And of course, cold and warm front that meets, resulting in a nice layer of fog. Okay, next one. And an occasional snowstorm. Next one. And when it's wet, it's not a pretty sight. Man, you can collect high heels about this thick boot and keep on walking. There's a nice piece of wood there. So talk about soil erosion, man-made. All right, next one. Summer short, so gardening is kept to a minimum. Okay, next one. And our work involves setting up our GPS markers. Boy, we didn't learn that. We should have learned, like you, use these markers to bring with us. So we set the markers in aerial ready for aerial photography. Next slide. And we use sub-centimeter differential GPS measurements and acquire our spots. And either one, next one. And we either do get ready. It's right on top. These rocks on here are actually mineralized pieces of wood. So the different layers. This is the topmost layer being fully mineralized, and then the other underlying layers are actually still in a mummified state. The wood can burn even if they're 45 million year old. It has been tried and successfully, but there's no darkness there during the summertime, so no need to make fire or bring flashlights. Don't bring a flashlight to the Antarctica. It'll be daylight there. All right, next one. Usual equipment setup, and then we either do, next one, either do a long line launch up to 200 meters, and next one, and or lifted directly from the kite if the pole is good enough. Next one, positions are determined by using walkie-talkies. This guy's underneath, and just making sure that we're in the right area of the photograph. And next one, and a different perspective. Of course, I'm on the other side. Didn't shoot this one, but there's what the 20-foot delta with the rig up there, stereo rig, looks like. And okay, next one. Okay, this is a larger view of our soil erosion from the 10 by 10 photo aerials, and this is a full-size 35 millimeter of KAP, doing even with the cheap lenses. We still see quite a bit of the scientists at work were just amazed to see this. Again, this is very, very flat here, and then down in here towards the edge where the footprints are is a slope going down. And as the wind picks up, it picks up not only blowing the stuff off the surface as it dries up, but it also picks up soil, dirt from the lower part of the mainland, comes in and then creates an overburden as it turbulence over the soil. So they're quite pleased to see that. All right, next one. And of course, stereo pair. I didn't bring a pair to look at under the stereoscope, but I've got my ski bag here. It's a 7-foot ski bag. Judging with doing the maths with the lens, 35 millimeter, it gives me a scale about 150 feet, about 50 meters, and at an altitude about the same, about 150 feet. Okay, next one. Okay, this is some work I did 2 years ago up in Fairland, Newfoundland. We were lucky enough to do some kite festivals for Marconi's celebrations out there. And I did a day's work, went out an hour away from St. John's, Newfoundland, to a little town called Fairland. And there's an archaeological site there dating to in the 1500s. And of course, this is on their website. And I had to put this down because it says 16-year-old James Young visited Fairland as a surgeon. Now that's pretty scary. I don't know. I don't know if he learned his trade by web or what, but it's quite interesting. He was also doing mapping at 16 years old, so very bright fellow. So next slide. So these are some of the aerials we took of the archaeological site. And the street used to go out to here into another area of the peninsula. And at that time, they actually physically removed the house to start digging underneath it. This particular area was a real treasure trove, finding silvers, and actually there was a gold ring that was found so they were quite pleased of what they have found. And next one. And now they sent me a topo map of the area, and I tried to overlay the images just using Photoshop. Shot the areas from the topo with the digital camera, and then start overlaying my photograph. But the topo map is 12 years older than the photographs, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. The physical features, what was on the topo map, are no longer there. So we can use the some of the markers on here to do a good overlays. But it was a good description to use low technology, Photoshop, to do overlays, working in multiple layers, and each layer can be distortion to fit over a particular form. Next one, I think that's about it. Yeah. So my conclusion is that go into the research to know what is available to us to do our photos, and to innovate, work with what you have at hand, like most of us do here. And also there are other means of doing aerial photography, but We love what we do. Okay, thanks a lot.